Welcome everyone to the 5210 Fund 1 quarterly report for Q3 of 2020. Welcome, Nate.
Jack, how are we doing today?
We're doing great.
Good.
Let's jump right into the report. I'm going to start by walking through the capital metrics on the right-hand side. So keep in mind, if you're watching this, that this is as of the end of Q3. So this does not include the park that we recently acquired in October. So as of the end of the quarter, we had a little over $4.3 million deployed across the 4 parks in the portfolio. This current stated valuation, you'll see that that went up. As we acquired Palo Verde Hills, we went through a stated valuation process, and that essentially captures the appreciation that was there at the time that we acquired Palo Verde Hills. So you'll see that reflected in increase in unit values on page 6 of this report. Current debt is just below $1.4 million, and the current appreciation also went up. That's a little over $1.3 million. And then you'll always see a pie chart there that breaks that down. Debt's about 20%, capital is about 60%, and appreciation is 19%. So let's jump into the Q3 highlights. So this is looking backwards, guys. Remember, in Q3, COVID-19 is still a factor. Now, obviously, less of a factor with mobile home parks, but it's still a factor. Nate and his on-site staff did a masterful job minimizing the impact there. We continue to upgrade our team. So Nate's brought some new staff onto the parks. And then, of course, we have pushed into some new acquisitions as well. Another thing that everyone should get excited about is Nate's making some adjustment to some of our existing properties that's really going to have a nice positive impact on the fund in Q1. Acquisitions, as you guys know, we acquired Palo Verde Hills in October. We're set to acquire Country Breeze in December. So both of those will show up on the Q4 report. And Nate, why don't I hand the baton to you, and you can talk about business and the portfolio.
Yeah, business has been exciting for the quarter. Our bookkeeper, who we've been working with on a contract type basis for almost 2 years now, has agreed to come on full time. That'll happen after the first of the year. In addition to that, we're pushing into some pretty big improvements on the property management and operations side, continuing to build that up so that our processes continue to get smooth, easier for the team, easier for our team on site. And over the next 12 months, we've got a couple more big key hires that we'll bring on to 5210 on the business side that'll help us kind of round out everything. That'll give us enough staff and team to push through for a couple years, I'm hoping. In addition to that, on the portfolio side, we had some pretty nice performance this quarter compared to Q2, significantly better. Every single park operated better, considerably better. That's due to operations, but it's also, there's a couple expenses that hit in Q2 that were irregular, so that kind of skewed things a little bit. But the other thing that really helped is we got that initial shock of COVID out of the system, really found a way to work with our team on site and with the residents to keep things moving in the right direction and educate them that actually paying on time was a good thing.
Okay, let's jump into your report on each one of the parks in the portfolio.
Yep, so I'll touch on Oasis Gardens, Central Park, Estates, Santa Rita, and then Melody to round it out. On Oasis Gardens, the capital improvements that we set out to achieve prior to them showing up in Q4 really have gone well. Residents are excited and they're showing up. The biggest challenge that we're facing with the OG right now is that the Canadian border is closed to crossing by vehicle. That's halted probably 50% of our residents from coming down to the park this season. Now we're hoping that after the first of the year that lightens up a little bit and some people are able to come in, but I'm not holding my breath for that. But here's the good news, because the park is what it is and we've got a bunch of park models there, those residents are really encouraged, and really they have to pay to keep their home in that spot. So of those, 145 spots, we've got 116 that have paid their seasonal lot rent because those are park models. So this is down from about 126 from last year. So we're seeing a bit of a drop off, but it's not too bad. We're seeing a drop off in a few of the other places that we're hoping to have seen reservations by now. 3 of our resort rentals and some transient spaces that are normally full right now, but people are just being cautious with travel. And a lot of those Canadians, like I said, are not coming down, and Yuma is a hotspot for Canadians. So we're being super proactive in our approach. We're actually getting really aggressive with marketing. We've got some paid advertising that's happening, which we haven't ever done before, and engaging our marketing team to focus strictly on some new residents down at the park. And we're seeing some traffic actually happen from that. So we're hoping that that backfills a little bit of that gap. So we'll still have a really successful year. People are having a ton of fun down there. I was just actually visited the park yesterday. So it's still in a good spot. It's just going to be a different year down there. So Central Park Estates, new management team's doing great. They're really hitting their stride down there. She's got our manager. She's got a great style for the park. And our lead maintenance gentleman, who's acting as project manager and construction lead, he's crushing it. He's pushing into home rehabs. We've got 2 or 3 teams that are working down there, really solidifying that team. We've got a couple other tactics that we're using to push some revenue, finding some creative ways given COVID. That's actually going to have an impact. And we're just continuing to push on home rehabs and some common area capital improvements that have just been slow to come to fruition over the last 12 months because we've been focused so much on home rehab. So that'll make residents happy. That'll continue to move the park forward, and that'll just be another reason for our residents to give referrals for new people. Santa Rita Heights. We just recently replaced our manager down there. That's it's not that he was doing a bad job. He was just not fitting into our program as well as we had hoped. So we replaced him, and our new manager is doing a great job. He's got a background in management and construction, and the operational improvements that we made last year are really coming to fruition now. It's interesting how some of these things get delayed, and when they show up, it's really nice. Another example that we'll see soon, probably not till after the first of the year, is the huge tax savings that we made on lowering the property taxes. That's a delayed reaction by 12 months before we start to reap the rewards of that, but that'll also start to show up. Last park in the portfolio currently is Melody Court. Quiet park, as we had talked about. It's only 50% full in the summer. A lot of those residents are coming back, although some Canadians aren't as well either. We continue to push hard into home sales, and we continue to push hard into capital improvements. That park doesn't have nearly the moving parts as some of our other parks do. It's really focused on the home sales side. So that's really what we're pushing into right now.
Okay, let's talk about new acquisitions. I'm going to talk about the market first. The market for mobile home and RV parks is crazy. So Nate, as you've seen, and as I've shared with a few emails, we've seen cap rates dip into the 3s, and we've seen some parks sell north of $100,000 a space. So it's just ridiculous what we're seeing out there. And that's not just here in Arizona. We're seeing that same kind of thing all across the United States. So it even makes it more important that Nate and I are able to acquire parks directly from owners that are not on the market. So we're not competing, and I don't think we'd be buying parks if that was the case. On the acquisition side, with respect to Country Breeze, we've received over half the capital commitments that's required to close that. Capital call for those of you who have outstanding unfunded commitments are going to take place probably on the 30th. That's Monday, the end of the month. Will give us about 2 weeks to fund your capital so that we can close that one. So Nate, why don't you talk about how the transition went on Palo Verde and then where we stand on Country Breeze?
Yeah, Palo Verde, we closed that back on October the 14th. Like we had mentioned earlier in the call, it's going to show up in our Q4 report, but that transition went so well. We spent considerable time prior to that, project takeover to really be prepared when that came around. There's a tremendous amount of organization on our side with Jack, our internal bookkeeper / accountant, our internal property manager, our internal software that we use to keep everybody on track, making sure that we don't miss anything. We put a lot of time up front in planning and organizing that, and it showed so well. That was such a well-oiled closing, and all the utilities and all the little tiny nuances that can be tough to get your head wrapped around when you go into a transition like that. Getting the old managers out, getting them trained, getting the old owner out, getting our processes in place, getting all those utility things transitioned over. Like I said, it was really, really smooth. The owner, the seller, just when I met him out there to wish him well on his next adventure, he said, "Nate, that was the easiest transaction that I've ever been through in my life." And he's 70 years old. He's been through a lot of real estate. So that's a testament to our team and the pre-planning to make sure that that goes smooth. And it's not something that doesn't go unnoticed by our residents and our management team. And that really shows, it really tells a lot about our company and how we operate, and people want to be involved in that. So it's such a cool thing to see. I'm really proud of the way it worked out. As much as we worked on that training and that transition, we also worked in the training program for a new team as they come on board. So we really have that dialed in as well. It's a great tag team between myself and our internal property manager. All of those processes are set up seamlessly, and that transition's just so nice. Our management team is really excited, and that really translates well down into all the existing tenants and residents at the park. So they see who we are, we see how the communication goes, and they're so excited. We're already starting to make changes out at the park that is getting everybody excited, things that the previous owner hadn't done in years. So it's a big deal. So that acquisition went great, and we'll only start to make little tiny adjustments and improvements in those processes as we go forward to make them better.
Okay, Country Breeze.
This 159 pad park is going to be just, I've been kind of dubbing it as this incredible anchor to the fund. We're going to be adding north of $800,000 to top line revenue to the portfolio. It's a rare case where really when we get into a deal, we always hope that it turns out to be as good or better as what we kind of see up front. Now, sometimes that happens. But in this particular case, we're excited that at nearly every point in the process of our due diligence, and we get down into the weeds, into some stuff that people don't even think about, reviewing and double checking. But at almost every single point in this process, the deal has just gotten better and better. So I'm really, really excited about this one. It rounds out the portfolio like perfectly down in Yuma, with the third acquisition in that city. And the other component that's been a tremendous amount of work to get it shaped up, but it's going to be incredible to have for the property is the debt that we're getting. So we're getting Freddie Mac debt on the park, sub 3% interest, 30-year AM. We're going to get a couple years of interest only. And it's just going to have a massive impact at the park, what the park is going to be kicking off for cash flow, and how much of an impact that's going to make on the fund's performance. We're really excited. It's going to be a tremendous way to really round out the last park or two of this fund. So in addition to that, there's still a ton of value that we're going to be able to add. Some vacant pads we can fill, just a couple, but enough to where it'll make an impact. We're going to be able to push some rents, making small improvements around the park to make the community nicer for the residents. It's just going to be a slam dunk for the fund. I can't wait to get down there and get our team transitioned. And I think we're already interviewing now for the new team in mid-December. So we're just so far ahead of the game here and dialed in. It's gonna be awesome.
Okay, well, thank you for those both, Nate. Appreciate that. Let's talk about fund performance. This is the page that everybody kind of looks forward to seeing. Start with the right-hand side up there. You'll see 109%. That number reflects the year-to-date performance against the original projections for every park. little under $83,000 of distributable net cash flow this quarter, so significantly more than what we saw in Q2. And then that reflects to a 7.58% distribution for the quarter. So the lion's share of that is going to go to the limited partners to make up for the shortfall that occurred in Q2. But you'll see Nate and Jack actually got a little nugget there. So we'll promise not to spend it all in one place, but we still got a little bit there. This next item that we didn't include on the last report, but I think it's important for you guys to see, you'll see an ongoing annualized year-to-date fund cash-on-cash performance. So you're going to see the distribution up above, move around with some seasonal performance, particularly with respect to the cash that we collect in on Oasis Gardens. But that 7.78 number represents how the fund has performed for the year to date. So that's important to watch, because as that number grows, that's further solidifies the 6% preferred return, and it allows us all to kind of see where we're at with cash flow. Right below that, you'll see that the unit valuation has went up. So initial unit values were $1,000 per unit. Today they're $1,071. That 7.1% increase took place when we did the stated valuation that we mentioned on page 1 of this report. So when you add the 6% preferred, which we're caught up to date, and that 7.1% increase, that reflects a 13.1% annualized return to date for investors in the fund. So jump up to some of this language that we have up here. Fund performed better than projected in Q3, and that we talked about that seasonality, but that's going to flatten out. So as we add more parks to the fund, particularly the amount of cash flow that's going to come to the fund from Country Breeze, you're going to see that seasonal impact flatten out a little bit. Bottom line, the portfolio is on target to exceed the NOI projections at every park we own. Q3 distribution is going to make up for the shortfall that we experienced in Q2, and we're on target to meet the preferred return for 2020. A little bit of housekeeping here. Distributions are in process. If you receive your direct deposit, you'll wait 3 or 5 days to see those arrive in your account. If you've chosen to reinvest, you'll see that show up in your Verivest portal as paid in capital. And if you haven't taken the time to make that change and you'd like to, that's pretty easy. Just reach out to me and I'll show you how to do that. You literally can toggle that on and toggle that off anytime you want. At the time of this report, we'll have the P&L, the balance sheet, your individual investor statement, and a copy of this report all uploaded into that portal. And you can access that anytime you want on the 5210 website at the top right-hand corner of the main page. So that concludes our quarterly report for Q3. If you have any questions about the report, reach out to me. And also, I want to finish with this friendly request. There's nothing we really love each one of you investors, and as you guys get this experience with us, there's nothing that's more valuable to us than if you would just share what we're doing and spread the word about this type of investment. So particularly with those people who could benefit from having this be a piece of their portfolio, and certainly would help us as we raise capital for the balance of commitments for Country Breeze and the balance of the fund. So thank you all. Thank you, Nate, for participating, and we'll see you all next quarter.
Thanks, guys.